Can you see the screen, Angela?
I sure can.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 2026 Community Impact Grant webinar. Today, we'll just be doing a deep dive into what to expect with the 2026 application and hopefully answer any questions that you might have. Why isn't my slide working? Oh, gosh. There we go. All right. So our grant making team here at the foundation is myself, Gretchen Corcoran. I'm the grants manager here. I've been with the foundation for 3 years now, and I oversee all of our competitive grants that nonprofits apply for. So anything Go Apply related or grants management portal, I'm your person to contact. Mary Jo Jean-Francois is not on the call today, but she is our director of impact. Myself and Angela are on her team, but she kind of oversees all things grant making and impact initiative work here at the foundation. And Angela, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Angela Ventris. I'm the community grant writer for the Community Foundation, and for the past 2.5 years, I've been writing grants for CFGD and helping nonprofits throughout our region to secure grant funding for their initiatives.
So a brief or a quick overlook of what our foundation is and what we do. Really, our mission is to empower communities and ignite generosity. Our vision is a vibrant and inclusive Dubuque region, and our 4 values really fall into these 4 categories of equity and opportunity, collaboration, stewardship, as well as knowledge. So as far as the Community Impact Grant goes, this is an annual grant that we offer each year. This year, we are awarding a minimum of $3,500 to up as much as $20,000 for a maximum request. We will not accept requests under the $3,500 mark. So please make sure that your program or project that you are applying for is a minimum of the $3,500 requested amount. And we will not award anything over $20,000. This is a 2-phase application process. Nothing has really changed from this part of the application from years prior. All applications will be submitted online via our online grants portal, Go Apply. So if you've applied last year or even the year before, and you should have an existing Go Apply account, you'll be able to submit your application online there. And then phase 2, we kind of have a unique approach with this process is we invite top 10 finalists to pitch their proposals to our grant committee later in the summer, which I will dive into dates a little deeper here on the next few slides. But really it is online application, and then we will review applications and invite the top 10 applications to come and pitch those proposals. As far as grant timeline goes, the application is opening on May 11th, that's a Monday, and will close June 8th, also on Monday. So a little less than a month to get your applications in, but is a fairly simple application. Again, nothing has really changed from last year. So if you are a past applicant, you should know what to expect there. But if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me. Finalists notified, and I see I have a typo here. We will notify the top 10 finalists on Wednesday, June 17th. So our committee that reviews the applications will actually meet on Tuesday, June 16th. And then on Wednesday, we will notify those top 10 organizations about the pitch proposals and more instructions with that. And then as far as the presentation period goes for those top 10 applicants, that will take place from the June 17th, the Wednesday you're notified, to July 24th, which is a Friday. The presentation preparation, really what that consists of is a 90-second video, and that is about your organization, not so much being judged on the quality of the video. We've had videos recorded on iPhones, similar to what Angela and I are doing today through a Teams call recording. The preference and type of recording is entirely up to you. You will not be judged on the quality, more so how you are conveying your mission of your organization, as well as the program and project you're requesting funds for. We also offer some coaching sessions with that too, with CFGD staff, just to make sure you're on the right track, which should you make it to the top 10 applications, we'll communicate more information about that at that time. Nonprofit presentations. So those top 10 organizations that are selected to pitch their proposals will be invited to join our grant making committee on Tuesday, August 11th from 3 to 5 p.m. We will let you know of your scheduled time slot, but that's typically you get about 10 minutes per organization to really answer any questions regarding the 90-second pitch that you had prepared. Those videos are reviewed by the committee prior to the Tuesday, August 11th date. So really that August 11th date is more of a Q&A. Any questions the committee might have around your program, your project, any budgetary questions, those type of things is what you can expect. And then grant award notification. Our board meets earlier that week to approve the grants. So we anticipate notification of grant recipient awards by Friday, August 28th. And like many of our grants, we do require a final report. So that will be due no later than June 1st, 2027, or upon project completion, whichever comes first. Guiding principles, as far as partnership criteria, we really do want organizations that are applying that have either they are aligned with our mission, vision, and values, which I had mentioned on one of the first slides. We really are looking for mission-driven organizations with that commitment to collaborative capacity building, and we want the grant making to reflect the diversity of the communities we serve as well. Results-based funding. Any funding request through the community impact grant should demonstrate how programming has improved lives in Northeast Iowa. Some other priorities that we have here also are innovative projects that might be serving a broader community need, programs, projects, or organizations that are serving vulnerable populations, capacity building, so that could be staffing costs, operational costs, anything that's going to help you move your mission forward. Seed grants, we've also offered money through seed grants for new projects or initiatives, addressing important community issues, and just any collaboration among other organizations too. So if you have a particular program or project that is in collaboration with another organization in your service area, we highly encourage those to be submitted requests to. Grant guidelines. To be eligible for a community impact grant, you must be a 501c3 nonprofit, church, school, or government organization. Non-501c3 organizations are welcome to apply, but you must partner with a fiscal sponsor. This is just a 501c3 organization that's willing to partner with you and receive the grant funds on your behalf. More information regarding that is on our grants page online, as well as in the grant application itself. But if you are a non-501c3 and have questions regarding fiscal sponsorship, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can provide the form that is required for this and answer any questions as well. As far as geographic area, organizations located in and or serving residents in these 3 counties are eligible to apply. So Clayton, Clinton, and Dubuque counties. You can be located or have a service area in all 3 or just one. There's no preference there, but you must be located in or providing services in those 3 counties. We also ask that you limit 1 grant proposal per organization as well. Those that are ineligible for grants, we've got listed here individuals, lobbying activities, any sort of debt retirement or budget deficits, tuition, scholarships, or core operating expenses for public schools, annual campaigns, or any really sort of fundraising type event, religious organizations for religious purposes, any political activities, This next one is important too: purchases or activities that have occurred prior to grant decisions. So if you have a program in mind or a project in mind that you've already purchased items for, and you're looking to get funding assistance with those would not be eligible for funding through this grant. And then also, we aren't really looking to focus on solely capital improvements, so any sort of infrastructure building type of requests, and then multi-year requests as well.
All right, now I'm going to take it away and talk a little bit about grant writing. Now I'm focusing this, and it's a little bit tailored for the community impact grant, but it's pretty general advice that applies to a lot of grants you might be applying for. And if any of you have been on any webinars that Gretchen and I have done before, this may look familiar, but guess what? I've added some new information specifically about AI, so you may want to stick around for that. First of all, don't forget and don't discount all the work that you need to do before you actually sit down to write the grant. So much about putting forward a really good proposal is the work you do before you ever touch pen to paper or start typing on your computer. And I'm going to go through these basic steps that are so important before you even write your proposal. And first, that's determining your team. Who is going to help you create your proposal? Who's going to help you get the work done after you receive this grant? Who's going to help provide research or information that will help make your proposal a strong one? And who can proofread your application before you submit it? Make sure everybody who's involved is on board with the idea that you're proposing, and make sure that they can support and implement any project that they're being asked to be a part of. Determine your idea. Now, I know you already have an idea, absolutely. We always do, right? But talking to all of your team members can really help solidify your idea and sometimes make it better than what you originally thought of. Ask everybody involved for their input. See if you can make it even more polished, more refined, and more impactful for Northeast Iowa communities. And like I mentioned, with that data piece, you've got to gather your information, connect with other organizations or partners who can help give you information you might need, and make sure that you have all of that ready to go so you can write your proposal. I'll have you switch it. All right, so there's several sections in a grant proposal that I'm going to go over relatively quickly. Now, at any time, if you have more questions, I'm always available to meet one-on-one. So feel free to connect with me. I can help with identifying grants, reviewing grant proposals, and helping after you receive a grant too, to make sure you're tracking everything correctly. So in writing your proposal, you've done all that pre-work. Now you need to review your project description, budget, project plan. You got to explain your need and how you're going to measure success. I'm going to go over each one of these in a little bit more detail. So the first one is your project description, and that is your project explained succinctly. Now keep in mind, the person who's reviewing your proposal may know nothing about your organization, or worse, might have some incorrect assumptions about your organization that you might need to overcome. By making everything as clear and succinct and well-defined as you can, you won't leave room for any of those assumptions or leave reviewers with unanswered questions that might be rolling around in their brain. Think of the project description as the place where you tell the grant reviewers why your project is the best choice for advancing their objectives. Yes, of course, it's all about what the grant can do for your organization. But when you're putting forward a proposal, you've really kind of got to butter up the grant reviewer and say, this is going to be best for your money because it's going to do the best for our community. A tip that I recommend is just write your project description without worrying about the level of professionalism or how many sentences it takes. Just get it all out there, explain what you want to do, and then try and summarize your entire project in one sentence. Next, a very important point is the budget. I know it might sound funny, but if you've ever had trouble getting a team to spend down grant funding, you will know it's true. You have to have buy-in from your team and make sure that everybody knows they have to spend the money down. So they have to make sure that they are in agreement on what your budget is going to look like ahead of time as well. Don't forget to include everything you might need. I've seen proposals that were for some work that required a computer, and folks forgot to request funds for a computer, and they had to find additional funding just to complete the grant. So make sure that every expense you might need that's allowable for the grant proposal is included. Now remember, and Gretchen, correct me if I'm wrong, this budget should only include what is being requested with the grant. So if their overall project costs more than $20,000, this budget should still only total $20,000, correct?
Correct, yes. So if your total project budget is more than what you're requesting, we are really asking the applicants detail just the requested amount within this budget template and how those costs are associated into, to give us and our committee a clearer understanding of what is being requested and how those funds, grant funds, would fit into the project.
Perfect.
Excellent. And I will add too, we do provide this project grant budget template. It's linked within the online application, but also on our website. And we do ask that everybody use the same template just for consistency, especially from a review standpoint. We get a large amount of applicants, and we've got a limited amount of time. So to make things easy and streamlined for our review committee, we want to make sure everybody has the same budget template used.
Excellent. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Okay, the next piece is a project plan. There's a couple different ways that you can write your project plan. There's objective-based and there's timeline-based. On the next slide, I've got some very basic examples of each. So most likely yours is going to have much more detail than this, but you can see that there's a couple different ways that you could decide to format. An objectives-based will talk about the objectives that you want to meet, regardless of when it is. And within each objective, you explain when that will happen. And a timeline-based plan discusses by time how you will achieve each one of the objectives. So either one of these are completely fine. It just can help you understand a little bit of how there's certainly no one right way to write a grant, and it's really dependent on what you are planning on doing. Now, one of the next things to consider is explaining the need. I mentioned it a little bit, but remember this grant is called the Community Impact Grant. So you want to really hit home how the project will make a positive impact in Northeast Iowa. Sure, okay, you may need books for your program, and that is definitely good to say. But explaining how having books and giving them to youth in your community will make a positive impact is better, right? Will having books for students help increase literacy rates throughout the community? How to really hit home the need for the community. Some other applications call this section a problem statement because it explains the problem that your project hopes to solve or reduce, at least, right? So when you are explaining the need, it can be helpful to explain both qualitative data that backs up the need and also the experiences or the stories of folks that can really hit home why it's so important for our community. On the next slide, I've got the difference between a qualitative statement and a quantitative statement. So the quantitative, there's fewer than 5 certified Marshallese language medical interpreters nationwide. That's the hard-hitting numbers aspect of a certain problem in our community. And then the qualitative, when interviewed about telephone translation services, one patient shared that wait times can be over an hour, and certified translators are often non-native Marshallese speakers, contributing to communication issues. So I sometimes explain that as sort of the head and the heart of the problem. And when I'm reviewing proposals, I do often see that a proposal will hit really hard at the numbers, which is important, and leave out perhaps a story or an understanding for someone that gives them the warm fuzzies. Or on the other hand, an application may lean more towards the warm fuzzies, but you don't understand how many people will be impacted and what is the level of impact that people will see. So try and hit both of those. Measuring intended results. How are you going to measure success? First of all, measure things you can actually report on. The number of smiles participants have is not a great measure of success. It's pretty difficult to measure. Were they smirking? Were they happy? Who knows? Consider measurements like increased access to services, increased participation numbers, things like that, things you truly can measure and have time to measure. Don't inflate your numbers either. The numbers that you have are the numbers you should use. If, for instance, you have a small number of participants in your program and the costs are high per program participant, explain why that is. That's certainly justifiable. And grant reviewers would rather that you be truthful about your numbers than inflate and not be able to meet those expectations. All right, now the mentioned information about AI and grant writing. Regardless of your personal opinions on AI, it is being used by both those applying for grants and those reviewing for grants. Now, this is not an endorsement or a rejection of using AI in your application. All I am going to do is provide some general information and some things from my own personal experience that I have seen in both using AI and in reviewing documents that have been generated by AI. There are lots of resources out there for more detail, but these are just some things that seemed timely to me and that I have seen lately. So first of all, just as a reminder, AI, like ChatGPT or Claude AI, is what is called large language learning models or predictive text. So what that really means is that they have had a lot of information fed to the algorithm, and then the algorithm decides based on what you have asked or what you have prompted, what the most logical response would be. So keep that in mind. It's only as good as the information that it has been fed, so to speak, right? So some of the pitfalls is that because it's that the next logical word, sometimes it guesses incorrectly what that next logical thing is. We've had a document generated that guessed that our website is www.cfgd.org, which is not our website. So if we had not caught that, we could have potentially included that incorrect information. So you've got to be very detailed in your review of anything that you run through AI, because it is a guess. Now, often it is a very good guess as to what should be the next correct word for your response, but sometimes it does get it wrong. The less information you provide it, the more likely it is going to be wrong. So we did not provide it with our website, so it just guessed and it guessed wrong. AI will also make up data and provide incorrect information. Roughly half the time, if I'm asking it to stick to a certain word count when I want a response, it goes over. So a lot of grant applications have very strict word or character limits. And if you rely on AI and then are in a rush to submit your proposal at the very end, you might be stuck with a longer grant application response than you can use and have to edit on the fly. AI does not know your organization. What it knows is often more generic information about whatever you're writing about. So reviewers are seeing applications every day, and if it sounds generic, or unlike any of your other content on your website, your mailings that you send out, your donor appeal letters, or other items, it's not going to resonate with the reviewers. So whatever you ask AI to help with, make sure it still sounds like you. And that comes from making sure that you are not just asking AI to fully write a grant proposal for you. And that's where the potential comes in. AI can help when you're stuck. Sometimes it's just easier to get an idea out less formally at first. Remember, like I said, just write your project proposal however, and then potentially ask and have AI with a prompt rewrite this proposal more formally for a grant application. AI can also help with generating examples or basic outlines, and it can also help format a document with content provided by you. And AI can also help generate options, like if you need a title for your program, you could prompt AI to provide 2 to 3 suggestions of titles for our after-school program that's focused on literacy. Now that's a lot better prompt than just provide titles for an after-school program, right? You're going to get better results the more detailed you are. All right, now here's an example of a strong versus a weak prompt for AI writing. If you go to the next slide, Gretchen. The weak prompt: I'm writing a grant to support my after-school program. Write a proposal for me. You're going to get information because AI will always provide a response to you, but it's not going to have any of that localized data that we talked about. It's not going to have any messaging directly from you. It isn't going to know your language, and it's going to be very generic, right? Based on its best guesses as to what the next word and the next sentence should be. A stronger prompt might be, using information from the paragraph I have shared, provide a short project summary using professional language appropriate for use in a grant proposal. You could stop there, copy and paste what you've written out as your first go, and submit all of that together. Now, I use a few extra. Do not include any extra data. I did not include. Do not use any M dashes, which have sort of become a signal for something definitely written by AI because it is used way more than we do in our general writing. And keep the response under 250 characters. Now, like I said, it won't always do that, but I have at least tried to narrow down what I'm asking it to do. And remember, throughout all that, if you would not post the content that you are sharing with AI on your organization's Facebook feed, don't share it with AI because it is not kept private and it could be shared more widely at any point in time. So please keep that in mind. If you have more questions about how I use AI, feel free to give me a call, let me know, and especially if you've never used it before, I'm happy to give you some thoughts on some basic ways to use it. Now, once again, you may or may not choose to use AI, and that is entirely up to you. It has no merit or standing on the Community Impact Grant. I have just seen a lot of use of AI, both from the funder and the grant application side of things, and wanted to address it. All right, you've written it. You've gotten everything done. Now it's time to ask for help one more time. Once you have a draft complete, ask someone who's outside your team and not involved with the project to take a look at it. After they've reviewed it, ask them to summarize your project back to you in their own words. If they can't summarize your project or they're missing a key component that you think is really important, then you know that it's time to go back and add some more or do some tweaking, right? To make your project more clear and really hit home what you wanted to say for the grant reviewers. Ask them to review for grammar or spelling as well. It's really easy once you've been writing things for a long time to just gloss over some of those aspects as well. So having fresh eyes on it can be very helpful. Set your own deadline for when this grant is due. Now keep in mind, a grant might be due at Friday at 11:59, But that does not mean that someone's going to be available to help you at 10 p.m. on Friday night if you have a problem. Gretchen, what time is this grant technically due? Date and time, remind me again.
Monday, June 8th at 11:59 p.m.
And you are not sitting at home at 10:30 p.m. waiting for people with questions or concerns, right?
No, I am not, sadly. But our office is open till 4:30 on Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. on Fridays. So if you do have any questions or concerns or run into any issues, you're more than welcome to reach out during those business hours.
Awesome. So what I try and do personally is apply 1 to 2 days before the deadline at least, and during work hours. Because if you have questions or those technical issues, you need to be able to get in touch with somebody so that you can resolve that and still submit your application on time.
Right. And I will add too, technology can be our best friend and sometimes it can be our mortal enemy. So I do understand sometimes those last minute snafus happen, and we'll take them into consideration on a case-by-case basis. So if you do happen to run into an issue when our office is closed and the deadline's approaching, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help in that way too.
Awesome. So next, I just have a couple additional resources you can either screen grab, or if you shoot me an email, I can send all of these to you in an email as well. But the first just shows an example or several examples of winning grant proposals. And reading through them, you realize there is not one type of grant that is a winning grant proposal. It's how compelling your project is and how closely it aligns with the needs that the funder wants to achieve. Nonprofit Ready has a lot of resources for grant writing, including grant writing for novices as well, which is really good. And then finally, I have included some additional opportunities for grants throughout our region. You can check out Iowa Grants Guide, the State of Iowa Grants, and Grant Watch, which has a weekly, monthly, or annual fee. I also have a subscription to that, and I'm happy to take a look at any additional opportunities that may be available for your project as well. So let me know.
All right, back to me. So Angela, thank you for giving us just a overview of the grant writing sides of things and how you can approach your next application or proposal. I want to circle back around to grant making and how we think about that when it comes to grants in general, but the community impact grant as well. First and foremost, when you are in doubt, ask for help. Angela and I are here to serve as a resource to you all. So if there are any questions, whether it be more from the grant writing side of things or grant when you are have questions regarding a specific grant that we facilitate, reach out, ask for help. The guidelines, grant guidelines, are going to be the best place for you to go first. That's really going to have the outline of eligibility, what's accepted, what's not accepted. So always start with the grant guidelines. And from there, if you're still unsure, reach out to staff for any clarification. Second is showcase your unique value. We have a lot of good work happening in the community. I believe in Dubuque County alone, we've got over 690, roughly around there, nonprofits. So there is a huge need. Unfortunately, the need always outweighs the amount of funds that we have available. So really be intentional about showcasing that need in your proposal. What distinguishes you from other projects and other organizations? And like we mentioned earlier, is there potential for partnership or collaboration with other organizations as well? Details matter. Write, as Angela mentioned, write your application as if the person reading your request has never heard of your organization before. You want to draft a compelling proposal, but you want to refrain from maybe using some abbreviations or just assuming that the reviewer knows what your organization's doing as well. And then valuing feedback too. Whether you do receive a grant or have received a grant from us in the past, or not. Feedback can always be helpful in future grant proposals as well. And if you have any questions, here's our contact information. You're welcome to screenshot this. Otherwise, our contact information is on our website as well at dbqfoundation.org. But thank you all for joining us today. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Stop the recording.